When you step out onto the streets of one of the most dangerous cities in the world, the first thing that catches your eye is sneakers hanging over the wires. This isn't a childish prank or a marketing stunt, but a warning sign. There's a group here with its own rules. When we arrived, we were first asked to stay in the car while our escort went to talk to the locals. Only after that meeting were we allowed in. It felt as if we were entering a foreign country. In neighborhoods like this, you're a guest, even if you're just passing by. The power structure here is different. The authority of the state gives way to the authority of the neighborhood. The local protection racket, the gang, the boss, the street. All of this isn't a metaphor, but a harsh reality. Passers-by know that keeping their hands down and staying silent is the best choice. The best choice. A phone in your pocket can mean a challenge or a check. The locals themselves say that if you get stopped without an escort, consider yourself already in the game. And often it ends without words. Here, you won't see police on every corner. You won't see bright lights or cameras. You'll see wires, sneakers, cars slowing down at intersections. And the look of a passerby who darted towards safety. These are the outskirts of the city where even light is perceived as a luxury. And this shadow over the neighborhood is the first impression that stays with you. When you're in the zone, you're no longer a tourist, you're an observer, and the city is observing you. Inside this shadow, you get the feeling that you've ended up in a place where the rules have been rewritten and you haven't received the instructions yet. In a country where official figures are disputed, independent observers record dozens of murders per 100,000 inhabitants, one of the highest rates in the world. Violence stops being an accident and becomes a daily probability. People go out onto the streets knowing that around the corner a young man with a gun might demand money, silently, quickly, and without explanation. These stories are real. A person goes to the store thinking they'll just buy some bread, but they're stopped, a gun to their forehead, a concussion, no protection, their money stolen. Motorcycles are the main mode of transport in areas where the streets are narrow, lighting is minimal, and it's easy to set up an ambush. The military has been instructed not to travel at night because the hunt is on. The police have no flag to stand under. Violence becomes the currency of relationships. Matt's protection is not guaranteed. It must be bought or earned. What happens when a crime is committed and goes unpunished? In most cases, the state loses not only control, but also trust. Over 90% of murders remain unsolved. Violence is not just a statistic, it's the daily backdrop. Life under the protection of weapons means that every step is scrutinized, every stop could be a trap, every glance a signal. And in this world, millions of people do not live outside of risk, they live within it. There are neighborhoods where the police never go or only go very rarely. These areas are not controlled by state authorities, but by local gang leaders with automatic weapons, whose rules are not written in the constitution, but are enforced effectively. These zones are the space between the city and the law. Residents say that when we entered one of these neighborhoods, at first we were accompanied by a local fixer. Then we were led further in, as if the border between the lawful city and the favela had not just appeared, but had become a glass wall that we crossed without a passport. The police and security services are either corrupt, unwilling to take risks, or busy with something else. In these neighborhoods, the state is a guest, not the master. Such a situation arises from an institutional vacuum, a mismatch between how things are supposed to be by law and how they actually are. An environment is created where other rules begin to apply. Paying for protection, hiding from patrols, trusting not the police but the local overseer. People choose survival over the law. A lively street without police is a street where control depends on the balance of power. Whoever is louder, faster, and has a weapon at hand is the one who rules. And every local knows you are responsible for yourself. Against the backdrop of blockades, lines, and streets where a human life is worth less than a phone, islands of luxury are growing in those same cities. Houses with huge fences, private security, golf courses, swimming pools, all this in a country that officially has the largest proven oil reserves in the world. But the main profits are not for the majority. While most people live on a salary that barely reaches a double-digit dollar amount per month, they live side by side with villas and security guards. This division is visible on the street, at the entrance to a building, even in a glance. Getting on the right side of the fence is a matter of chance. But that chance is given to those who have resources, connections, and opportunities. Luxury. It's not just an achievement, it becomes a wall. Life grows behind the fence, with its problems, lines, and shortages. These little islands of life in the city resemble reservations. They exist in parallel, but do not interact with the surrounding reality. Do you see? Massive gates, barbed wire, security, these are less about protection from crime and more a symbol that we are different. When you go to the supermarket, not in your dreams, but in reality. The streets, standing in line for groceries, you don't see baguettes and croissants, you see empty shelves, passport restrictions, prices rising faster than wages. Moreover, basic breakfast foods become a kind of currency. The government introduced a rule. On one day, those whose IDs end with a 1 can shop. On another day, those ending with a 2. This is not a joke. It's part of the daily routine. Standing in line isn't a choice, it's an obligation. People start lining up at 5 in the morning for sale items at the store. And when you finally reach the counter, you often see bananas that are more expensive than most people expected. Toilet paper has become a luxury item, and even pasta is a rare find. Oil reveals the country's wealth, but you don't see it on store shelves. Because the economy depends on raw material exports and prices have fallen, the money in people's pockets loses its value and goods disappear. Production has been cut, imports are restricted, and the diaspora is leaving. In the supermarket, you see not just food, you see something else. The consequences of economic collapse. Life in such a store is a balancing act between what you need and what you can still buy, knowing that tomorrow might be worse. And this store says more than numbers ever could, on paper. Venezuela is one of the few countries where criminal groups operate not as an underground but as an alternative authority. They are called megabands. These are well-organized structures with a clear hierarchy, weaponry, and territories of influence. Each has its own districts, its own laws, its own goals. A typical megaband controls not only the streets but also the people. They collect taxes from local merchants, resolve everyday disputes, organize celebrations, and distribute food to the poor, strengthening public support. But that's just the facade. Their main activities are drug trafficking, extortion, kidnapping, robbery, and armed raids. The gangs have existed for decades. Some were created in prisons, where the leaders gained influence and managed districts from behind bars. Such enterprises organize crimes even from behind bars, and their authority extends further than the reach of the police. Often, the prisons themselves are under the control of gangs, not the state. On the streets, fighters from mega gangs use automatic weapons, grenades, and armored vehicles. Their numbers range from dozens to hundreds of people. They engage in real battles with each other for control over drug routes and markets. The police, finding themselves caught between the two sides, often withdraw without getting involved in the conflict. Residents know their protectors by name and by voice. Children grow up on streets where it is not the police but authority that rules. And the gangster is the one who helps a mother with her medicine. And so a parallel society is formed where the mega gang is the authority, the economy, and the protection. In some areas of Venezuela, it feels as if the state has ended and another system has begun. These places are like enclaves, living by their own rules. There is no official police there, but there are armed patrols. There are no courts, but there are their own laws. There are no officials, but there are leaders who are both feared and respected. Such areas are called barrios. They are built chaotically, on the slopes of hills, where houses are stacked on top of each other and the streets are narrow paths. Millions of people live in these places, and it is there that poverty is concentrated. The lack of infrastructure, jobs, and prospects gives rise to an alternative: control by criminal groups. The local overseer decides who is allowed to sell, who can enter, and who will receive a warning. He can also help with food, medical treatment, and resolving conflicts. But if someone breaks the local order, punishment follows. There will be no courts, only immediate action. On the surface, these areas may look like ordinary neighborhoods: signs, kids playing soccer on empty lots, fruit stands. But behind this facade is total control. People are afraid to speak to outsiders, they look down and answer in monosyllables. Living in such a neighborhood means being under constant surveillance. Here, everything is decided by legal authorities and criminal bosses. And if you make a mistake, no one will save you. Not the police, not the courts, only silence and submission. Venezuela is rich in natural resources: oil, gas, and gold. But it is gold and drugs that form the foundation of the shadow economy. In remote areas, especially in the south, illegal gold mining is thriving. Here, tens of thousands of people work without licenses in harsh conditions under the control of armed groups. Gold is smuggled across the border with the involvement of criminal groups and, according to international reports, with the silent consent of certain officials. The money from gold does not go into the budget. It goes toward weapons, bribery, and consolidating power. At the same time, drug trafficking is also developing. Venezuela has become a transit point for transporting cocaine from Colombia to other countries. Small planes, boats, and motorcycles are used. According to intelligence agencies, not only gangs but also certain elements within the security forces control the routes. Control over the gold mines is often exercised specifically by criminal groups. They collect taxes from the miners, provide security, and set the rules. Disobedience is punished. There have been cases where entire camps were burned down if someone spoke out against them. Thus, resources that could have developed the country become fuel for the mafia. They strengthen not the economy, but criminal clans, creating a paradox. The richer the land, the poorer its people. The Collektivos are not just street gangs. They are paramilitary groups that were originally created as a support for the government. They are armed, organized, receive support, and are considered part of the political system. Their official task is to protect revolutionary values. In reality, they control neighborhoods, suppress protests, and maintain power. They operate without uniforms, but with weapons. Often on motorcycles, wearing masks, carrying flags. It is the Collektivos who appear during street riots and rallies. They disperse crowds, capture activists, and conduct raids on apartments. The police do not detain them, and they are not prosecuted. They are outside the system, yet at the same time part of the regime. Local residents regard them with anxiety. They appear suddenly and can beat or detain people without explanation. People try not to attract their attention. Even when the Collektivos act openly, the police step aside. This model blurs the line between the state and the mafia. It becomes indistinct. Collektivos are a tool of power, but also a threat to civil society. Their existence indicates that official power is increasingly delegating the use of violence to extralegal structures. Venezuela is a country with the largest oil reserves in the world, more than Saudi Arabia or Russia, yet it is one of the poorest in terms of living standards. How did this happen? It all started with oil as the main source of income. When oil prices were rising, the country prospered. Money was invested in social programs, construction, and healthcare. But the economy became completely dependent on a single resource. With the drop in oil prices, revenues plummeted. The government was unable to adapt. Hyperinflation began, along with shortages and rising unemployment. The nationalization of key industries led to a decline in production. The local currencies lost their value. $1 was worth millions of bolivars. People lost their savings, entrepreneurs left the country, and importing goods became impossible. All of this is happening against the backdrop of vast oil reserves. But the technology is outdated, the infrastructure is destroyed, and corruption is everywhere. There is oil but no gasoline. People stand in line for hours just to get fuel, even though the oil is right beneath their feet. Venezuela has a paradox that cannot be explained by the logic of a free market. Gasoline costs next to nothing, while toilet paper is a luxury item. This isn't irony, it's part of everyday reality. At the gas station, you can fill up an entire tank for the equivalent of 1 cent. Locals often simply forget to pay. The employees just shrug and smile. This is the result of a government policy that treats oil as the people's property. But this model only works on paper. In reality, subsidies kill the market, create shortages, and fuel the black market. At the same time, basic goods like toilet paper, soap, and rice become inaccessible for most people. A single roll of toilet paper can cost $7, which is about 80% of the average salary. Such prices turn ordinary hygiene products into luxury items. At one point, things got so bad that the government extended the validity of passports because there simply wasn't enough paper to print new ones. People cut newspapers into napkins, and in public restrooms there are signs saying, "Bring your own." In stores, the shelves are empty, and the staff don't even bother with displays anymore. This situation reflects the overall economic destruction, currency collapse, uncontrollable inflation, dependence on imports, and the gap between official and black market prices. Gasoline is almost free, but you can't buy it anywhere. There is paper, but no one can afford it. All of this is not just an inconvenience, it's the destruction of the logic of everyday life. The line between political power and organized crime in Venezuela is becoming blurred. Many experts and human rights organizations claim that state institutions not only fail to fight the mafia, but often cooperate with it. Armed groups such as the Collektivos are openly supported by the government. Their task is to suppress protests and maintain control in the neighborhoods. They operate without uniforms, but with weapons and complete freedom. This is no longer just crime. It is a tool of the regime. Corruption permeates every level. To get a passport, enroll in kindergarten, or get a job, you need connections, bribes, and arrangements. According to international investigations, some high-ranking officials are involved in money laundering schemes, gold smuggling, and drug trafficking. Officials who receive their salaries in dollars live in guarded residences. Their children study abroad, while most of the population cannot even afford sugar. And all of this is protected by a system where the law has become a tool for profit, not for protection. The existence of the mafia in Venezuela is not a temporary phenomenon, it is an embedded element of power. People stop seeing the difference between an official and a criminal leader, because both demand a kickback to solve a problem. Here, power is not a guarantee, but a source of income. Barrio is the Venezuelan equivalent of a favela. It simply translates as neighborhood, but in reality, it means slums. An area where houses are stacked on top of each other, streets are so narrow that it's hard for two people to walk side by side, and life is a struggle for survival. It is here that the majority of the poor population lives. These are neighborhoods without asphalt, without sewage, without regular electricity supply. People build houses from whatever materials they can find, run wires themselves, and make roofs out of sheet metal. No land documents, no permits, just survival. Life in the barrio is life under constant pressure. There are no jobs and wages are meager. Children have a simple choice, either education, which they can't afford, or the streets, where they can earn money with a weapon in hand. Crime here isn't rebellion, it's a way to survive. Every barrio has its own overseer. He decides who comes in, who leaves, and who will be punished. The police don't come here unless it's for a major operation. People solve their problems internally, by their own rules. Despite all this, there is life here. People get married, play football, and raise children. The barrio is not just about poverty. It's a city within a city, with its own system, its own pain, and its own logic.